Finally, regarding Nazi iconography, the symbols that the National Socialist German Workers' Party uses in order to rally support and symbolize their ideal and their message. The typical Nazi salute is actually taken from ancient Rome, from the Roman Republic. It's actually true that during the American Revolution, as our founding fathers saw themselves as the spiritual descendants of the Roman Republic, that symbol, the Roman salute, was used to and by George Washington from time to time to symbolize America as a resurgence of the Roman Republican ideal of citizen soldiers and civic virtue, and the coming together of free men to shape their destiny without reference to kings, nobles, and so forth. So the Nazis took the Roman salute much as the fascists in Italy took the Roman fasces. In fact, the fascist party has their own version, which is slightly higher of the Roman salute, whereas the Nazis is more straight out than what Mussolini's folk did. Finally, the swastika. The swastika is a Nordic strength rune. Swastikas were actually found not just on Nazi German paraphernalia. The Swedish Air Force, through World War II, and the Finnish Air Force, both used swastikas as their symbols on aircraft. But they were a different orientation than the German swastikas with a different color scheme. I have an old collected works of Rudyard Kipling that was printed, I think, before or just after World War I, long before the Nazi Party even existed, so before World War I or during World War I. And these books all have a swastika on their backs, and it doesn't mean that I'm a Nazi, because I'm not. And Rudyard Kipling, the poet of the British Empire, was a Nazi. He was not. It is a Nordic strength rune. And if you have interest in Nordic culture, which includes Anglo-Saxon culture, Viking culture, and German culture, you might, before the Nazis, have found the Nordic strength rune to be something of interest. But Hitler, as he destroyed so many other things, turned the Roman salute into something evil, and turned the swastika into nothing but a twisted cross, an effigy, an anti-God, anti-faith, in service of what could only be called anti-life. So that in regards to the symbolism. Now, the symbolism of the totalitarians in the Soviet Union, typically they use the communist colors of bright red and yellow, which is used on the Chinese Communist flag to this day, as well as the flag of of Vietnam, the communist state of Vietnam. But the Soviet Union used the crossed hammer and sickle. The hammer representing the workers, the sickle representing the peasants, the farmers. So the unity of working people in the countryside, the sickle, and in the city, the hammer. This is actually changed on a couple of African flags that were designed in the 60s or 70s to mimic and be inspired by the communist ideal, and they have a panga, which is sort of an African machete, and other things. In fact, some African flags have an AK-47 on them. The flag of Mozambique, for example, because the AK-47, a Kalashnikov assault rifle, was so instrumental in the fight against the Portuguese. And in the case of Communist China, their flag represents the big star, which is mainland China, and the little stars are all those parts of China that were of the diaspora, which includes Chinese living overseas, as well as the former colonies of Hong Kong, Macau, and the independent nation of Taiwan. So, there is some symbolism for the totalitarians that we've talked about. And the Imperial Japanese. What is sometimes called the meatball flag is actually the flag of the rising sun. The red represents the sun coming up over the land. And in the Second World War, the Japanese battle flag has a red sun with a bunch of sun rays going to the edge of the flag. And again, this represents Japan, the land of the rising sun. The chrysanthemum on all Japanese warships and weapons, including rifles, represents the God Emperor. That is the symbol of the God Emperor. So there are some symbols of totalitarianism, which George Orwell said, in effect, is just a boot pressing into a human face forever, for at least as long as they rule. Thank you. Again, this should really conclude lectures for week 1. There will still be some appendix videos of additional materials, and I hope you enjoy your vacation.